Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and something a bit different. I think this is the first time I've done this video, and I'm going to have a proper look at the new update 3.4, is it? The Overlord update that's come out for us guys on the PlayStation 4, but unfortunately it's still been delayed by technical difficulties on the Xbox. But they wanted to get it out on the PlayStation 4 basically to coincide with the launch of the PS4 Pro with the HDR and increased resolution support. So that's why we've got it today, and unfortunately you guys are having to wait until they've solved the technical difficulties. Now there's a couple of small visual features. The Freedom gets stars on its wheels now. Ooh, well, on all the wheels, should I say. And the Boilermaker, well, this is where I cocked up because, well, I'm a massive twat. But yeah, it's not getting enough of 10 degrees to the view range. It's basically, I think it was an error of some sort from what I was looking at. It was a bug fix or something. So yeah, that's my bad, my cock up. I do apologise, but you know, we all make mistakes, we're only human. That's why pencils have erasers and all that jazz. Anyway, the Liberté, now the stripes extend all the way to the back of the tank, which I must admit I preferred it how it was before. That's just me personally, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but it's just a little bit of a thing. And one of the main things that's happened to tanks in this one is that the Motherland, and by extension the T-54 first prototype, has had an ammunition increase from 34 to 52, which is absolutely fantastic. Really good news, because in my opinion, and a lot of people felt the same way, the only problem with this tank was the ammunition capacity. And I think I mentioned in that other video that, you know, I have run out of ammo once or twice and nearly run out of ammo on more times than I could count. So that is absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a quick fly through the new map, Overlord. I put it onto a training room and was able to go in as a spectator and actually have a fly around the map and show you some of the locations, some of my thoughts on where maybe some of the tanks should go. I've not actually been on that map yet, and neither have been on the Comarin Rain variant, which apparently has got deeper rivers and swamps, which I think is basically how it was originally on the PC when everybody hated it. Well, hated it more so than they do now. But I've not been on that yet, and I've not done the training room one. I might do a quick bonus video of that maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But anyway, let's have a look at Overlord, and then we'll come back into the garage and we'll have a look at some of the other features. And then I have got a match for you at the end, just a bit of a replay in the Conqueror, because I've been grinding out that again. So yeah, let's get over to the map Overlord. So here we are on the Operation Overlord map, and what I've done, I've just put it into a training room so that we can have a good look around the map and see where everything is. So we've started at the southern spawn, as you can see, and I might be a bit wonky with the camera controls because I've not done this before, but starting from the southern spawn you can actually go straight left and you can sweep down here onto the beach. And there's not much cover down here. There's a few risers and craters and a bit of wreckage. There's a beached ship there, but you've also got these massive bluffs or cliffs overlooking the entire beach. And you have got a few places where you can possibly go hull down here and maybe cover things coming down the other side of the beach, but you are going to have to be careful of things shooting down on you from above, especially things with good gun depression. And you've basically got this ridge line that also runs along the beach, which won't provide a great deal of cover from end to end, but maybe sort of side to side you can get behind that and get hauled down behind that as well. And you've got these rocks in the middle that will provide you some cover from the tanks advancing down this way. Now we've moved up towards the southern, the northern spawn, and you can sweep straight up that rise and into the base there, as you can see. Now we've also got, let's go back along the actual cliff tops and the bluffs. You've got all these new bunkers, and these gun emplacements would be good places to get hull down in, possibly for certain tank destroyers, maybe like things like the Tiger 88 springs to mind. Well, it's basically, I've just bought one. You've also got multiple routes down onto the beach as well from up here, not just cliff diving, so you do have to be careful of the cliff, and that's what I mean about the camera. I'm not quite used to it. But there is some interesting features on here. Like I say, you've got the bluffs running down this way with lots of cover, with craters and bunkers and various other good things to hide behind as well. And like I say, that's one of the other ways down onto the beach near the southern spawn. The other one is just that way. Now moving further towards the middle of the map, you've got these interesting rises with the trees on. The trees don't provide a lot of cover, but you've got a few buildings to hide around. It seems, from what I've seen of the PC one from the videos, it does seem a little bit sparser building wise, but I could be wrong with that. But you do have a few trees. The trees are quite sparse, so they're not going to provide loads of foliage cover. But you have got a nice dip here in the middle, look, which is, you can see where the camera is on the map, around F6. You've got this piece of low ground with ridges all around it, which will be quite a good place to hide in and go hull down on these embankments as well. So that does provide quite a bit of cover overlooking the northern spawn, and indeed if you turn around it overlooks the southern spawn as well. So I'd say this is going to be quite a good position for things with good gun depression and good turrets, and it's just a good place for a bit of a hide, you know, a bit of a respite. If you're in cover, you can get down into here. You're going to have to be careful of that building there in the middle though, and artillery, well, artillery is going to have a field day with anything that gets spotted in there. Moving up towards the northern spawn again, you do have a few buildings and a couple of big bunkers to hide behind, but generally you've just got a lot of rises in the ground. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of buildings to hide behind. Like I say, it's more ridge lines, embankments, that sort of thing, and these areas of low ground which will provide some cover and possibly ambush locations for coming up here. But there's a lot of places for lights and mediums to really use this terrain to advance up on each of the bases, not just from the southern to the north, but also reverse as well, from north to south. There's a lot of terrain features that medium and light tank drivers are going to be able to use to hide their advance and sneak up and possibly get overlooking positions on the bases. Here's another one again for another sort of good gun depression hold down tank, like T29s, T30s, that sort of thing. And it does seem so far that a lot of the map does favour those tanks with good gun depression and good turrets. There are a lot of places for them to hide, but there is also, like I say, a lot of routes for light tanks to take to avoid fire while still being very active in spotting and doing a lot of active spotting. I can't see a great deal of places for them to do passive scouting from so far. There's a few possibly. This might be a good location if you start at the north, this bush here, but it's quite far forwards and it doesn't seem an overly big map, but it does seem to, like I say, have a lot of nice terrain features. In fact, this one here that I've just seen is a good one from the northern spawn point. It's slightly elevated, it's got a small embankment surrounding it, and like I say, it does overlook the southern base, so if you can get here quick enough, you've pretty much got cover on three sides of you, so that's quite a good location to be at from the northern spawn. But you are going to have to be careful of guys hiding in these low ground locations over here. Oh, in fact, no, that's the one I was on about before. That's that low ground that's just in the middle, so it does have good vantage points over the north and south space. So I can see a lot of heavy tanks wanting to fight it out over this area here to try and get the advantage and overlook the sort of base and a lot of areas. But it is a nice looking map and I can't wait to actually have a proper game on it. But I would have said, if I can get a bit closer in, there we go, let's get moving a bit quicker. I would have said that the mediums or the heavies are probably going to push down towards this way and try and push up along the beach using these risers to get up along that way and maybe work the way up further along. And I would say the mediums and the lights are probably going to have a bit more luck sticking up here where they've got the risers and the patches of low ground to basically cover their assault and well, just keep in cover, basically, keep themselves from being spotted until they get up there. But there are a few good locations, and like I say, I can see a lot of heavy tanks and strong tank destroyers fighting it out over this low ground in the middle. That does seem like a very good, strong position. Now when it comes to the beach, if you're overlooking it from the bluffs and the cliffs up here, you have got a few locations where you might be able to just sort of peek over, put shots down onto the beach, and then pull back into cover again. And these bunkers with these strong concrete pillars and posts are going to be quite good locations for providing cover for yourself. But you are going to have to watch the beach approach. I would say that maybe not the heavies, maybe some of the faster mediums and lights might make a good push up the beach to try and get some early flanking fire into the enemy before they even realise what's going on, and then they can pull back and use that cover again to get back down here, use the speed, and maybe duck around this sort of bluff here where the cliff sticks out onto the beach a bit more, and use this rise for anything that's advancing down the beach coming back at them. So it's a very interesting looking map, and it's one of the maps that a lot of people have been calling for from the PC, because it is, from what I can tell, one of the more favoured ones from the PC, although it did have its problems when it first came on. One of the problems was that tanks that started in the northern spawn had a good chance of starting with no petrol in their tanks. They could move the turret and fire, but they couldn't actually do anything. And the tanks that started in the southern spawn, they'd get about 2/3 of the way across the map and then just start dropping through the floor. So hopefully we are not going to see those same problems. But I'll zoom out and give you a nice overview of the actual battlefield and what you can expect from the map. But so far I'm liking what I see, and like I say, I can see a few places, a few interesting places to go to, and it'll be interesting to see where the actual different classes of tanks do end up going. I've got my own ideas of where they possibly should go and where you should go in particular types of tanks, but like I say, it'll be interesting to see where everybody actually does go. But I think this low patch of ground here in the middle is going to be quite important, like I say, and I think the beach is going to be quite an important feature, and possibly even this bit of elevated ground, this bit of elevated ground over here, got hiccups coming on, I think, will be quite important, because it does again give you overlooking fire, should I say, when I can get my words out properly, into both of the actual bases. And no, it doesn't really give you much fire down onto the beach, but it will give you a little bit of fire if anything's down there, but not too much. And also this point as well, which does have a bit of cover with the hard bunker, and of course the windmill as well, which I don't think is destructible, but we'll soon find out. But anyway, there you go. That's the Operation Overlord map. I hope this overview may have given you a bit of an idea of where you'd actually like to go, and it may have been helpful to you, but we'll get back and start looking at some of the other features now. Right, now, well, I hope that's going to be useful for you. Like I said, I've not been on it yet, so I'm not entirely sure possibly where you should go, but I have, you know, like I say, a few ideas there. Anyway, some of the other features, well, there's the reload time on the radial dial, so we'll just have a quick look at that now, actually, before I carry on. So when you choose reloading from the radial menu now, it actually has the time left on your reload displayed, which is really good. Well, that is incredibly useful for artillery, for auto-loaders, for things like KV2 and the OI, that sort of thing. That is a really nice feature, and I'm glad we've finally got it. Some of the other features are to do with the proving grounds, which are specific battle end text added, etc. New emblems, which I cannot find. They're supposed to be family, student driver and tank for sale. I've had a look and they are not there for some reason. I don't quite know why. Now, in the armour viewer, in fact, let's use the Motherland as an example. We now have fire chance on the engine, as you can see there, that's 15%. We also have gun elevation and depression, which is very useful and nice, especially seeing as they've gotten rid of the companion app, which had those in it. We've got ground resistances for the tracks, and I'm assuming it's hard, medium and soft terrain, sort of in that order. So your hard terrain is like your roads, medium I think is your fields, if I've got it right, sort of grass areas, and your soft is your swampy, muddy areas, if I remember rightly. Let's have a look, nothing else on there. Oh, and ammunition, we now have shell velocity, which may at first glance not sound useful, but it actually is quite useful, because obviously the faster your shell flies through the air, the less lead you have to put on a target, etc. So that is quite a nice and useful thing to have. They've also made the module viewer look quite different. They put an outline around the tank and a darker grey area on it, so you can see better where the actual modules are, which is quite good. And you've still got the same outline on the armor viewer. Now they've actually put the floor of the tank on, which they didn't have before, and the colours to me seem to have changed slightly. Now I am colourblind, so I could be wrong, but yeah, the colours do seem to have changed a little bit. I'm not quite sure why, whether it's they have made it so that the darker shades indicate sort of towards the upper of the sort of thickness range that you have. But I would prefer personally a more accurate armor viewer, something that actually gives you an accurate figure. Maybe you could press a button or hold the trigger or something and actually get a cursor on screen, so you can put it on a location and actually find the physical thickness of it, or the effective thickness, which I think would be more useful. But hey ho, keep our fingers crossed. Now one of the other main differences as well is this. Now let me have a look, see, let's go for British, shall we? It seems I'm trying to get the 215B, not far away, look, 58,000. Anyway, what you can do now is when you press triangle for tank info, instead of getting that little box up that gave you all the information, it now puts you into a blueprint or a etched garage, almost negative garage, and you can look at the tank itself, you can look at the modules, where they all are, and you can also look at the armour as well, which is incredibly useful. And it did make me feel a little bit redundant actually at first, but then I realised that it is only stock. So let's have a look at, say, the Conqueror. That is the stock turret and the stock gun, so it will not let you look at anything fully upgraded. It will only let you look at the stock vehicle, but it's still useful for finding out where the modules are on tanks that you don't own, so do bear that in mind. But obviously you've got to take it with a pinch of salt when it comes to the gun and the turret and what have you, because they are just stock. And the other thing is, I mean, they've changed a few other little bits, like you can see the gold, silver and free XP icons are slightly different. But another feature I like is that you can now do it in the garage as well, not the garage, the store. So you can go to the store and you can actually look at the premium tank. And obviously with premium tanks, what you see is what you get. There are no upgrades, so you know, this is essentially it. So that is quite a nice feature. And I think there's possibly one tank, or yeah, maybe one tank that I wouldn't have bought if I could have done that first. So that is quite a nice feature. Now, anything else that they've added in that's worth mentioning? Small adjustments, things like they've removed excess debris to Ensk and Rainbow War. Post-battle results screen, XP earned from battle hero medal displayed separately. Thiepval Ridge increased cap time for standard and encounter modes. Scorpion Pass Assault, they've adjusted base and spawn locations. Thiepval Ridge Standard adjusted base and spawn for balance. They've made changes to Northwest Standard and Highway Standard. They've added Assault Mode to Heilbronn. Unassigned crews will... that's a useful feature. I'll just show you. Unassigned crews now show the last tank that they were in, which is quite nice, as you can see there. So Hellcat, T3, T1, Easy 8, Sherman Jumbo even. So that's quite nice. And that's about it really. Oh, they varied the shell sizes, so I'd say that's really the important stuff covered. We've seen the map, so well, I hope it's been an interesting video for you, and we'll get into that replay now. And yeah, I think that's about it. But anyway, it's a pretty decent update. I think I'm pretty happy with it so far, but like I say, I would just like to see accurate figures on the armor viewer. I think that's the only thing really that I want to see now, and range rings on the radar, but we're not going to get those yet, unfortunately. So yeah, anyway, enough for me. Let's get on to that replay. Right, so I'm in the Conqueror, the tier 9 British heavy tank, and I said you'd be seeing more of this. Well, I think I showed you in the garage. I'm about 58,000 off it now. This was a bit before that earlier on today. It's a tier 10 match, and it's on Erlenberg, and it's an encounter. And it's one of those matches where I sort of get to a position, you know, there's not a terrible amount of us that come across this way, and I get in position ready to sort of provide a bit of supporting fire in case we run into any tier 10s, because like I said yesterday about the Conqueror, I mean, I love the Conqueror. It's a great gun on a good turret and a pretty mediocre hull. But you can really make it work, and you can bounce shots off your upper plate. Like I say, if you use your gun depression and try and hide your lower plate, you can actually get some shots off that upper plate as well, so it's not too bad. Now, as I'm coming across the river, I get spotted by a, is it a Sparpanzer? IC? I can never remember which way it's supposed to be pronounced, whether it's Spar or Spare. So if anybody knows, then just leave it in the comments, and that'll probably help me out a little bit. My pronunciation can be quite dodgy at times. So, now, I quite like this rise in the ground in this tank, because it's not got the best gun depression. I think it's -7 degrees. But this rise, it's quite a gentle slope, and you can just use it, because it's, I don't know, not a low profile tank, but it is compared to some of the stuff like E75s, and just by moving forwards and backwards slightly on here, I'm keeping hull down, I'm only giving them the strongest part of my tank, which is the front of my turret, and it's got fantastic accuracy. It's got a pretty damn good rate of fire for a tier 9 medium, and it's got quite a good aiming time as well. That was badly aimed, that was a very poor shot. But I've just got to be wary, because if I turn my turret slightly, I've got very, very weak sides of this turret. Now the FV215B, which has almost, well, it looks like an identical turret, but it's actually got stronger sides and rear to it, but this one, the sides are very, very weak. Now I'm taking a few shots, and I've got to be careful that I don't get surrounded, but I managed to put one through the bottom plate of the Carnarvon, and that's where you want to be aiming for. Front right side of the lower plate as you're looking at it, and that's where there's a big old ammo rack behind it. Same with the Conqueror as well. And I think on the Chieftain you've got 2 in the front, 1 either side. Now I am aware that there's that Panther 2, and I think it's a Motherland, that have worked their way around to my left flank, but they seem to be pinned down in a depression in the ground, so they can't get shots in my flank, so it's not too bad. And I'm just going to keep trying to put shots in at the Carnarvon, E75, well, anything that pops up in that castle really, and try and hold them at bay. And I didn't have much to shoot out of the Carnarvon there, but it hit it. I do like this gun. There's the odd times where it just does not behave itself, but most of the time it is very accurate. And I think what I was saying at the beginning of the match, and I just got completely sidetracked, is I don't really move too much from this spot. So get here, there's quite a large enemy push. In fact, it looks like most of the team have actually stayed on this side of the river. And so there's been a large push, and all the while this was going on, I keep checking on the Motherland, I keep looking at the map and watching that left flank, and I just feel so painfully out in the open. But luckily artillery got taken out fairly early on, I think it was. So that was quite nice. That's something I've not got to worry about, because at the moment I am a complete artillery magnet. If there are artillery in the match and I died in that match, then 95% of the time for the last week it's been artillery that's killed me. I don't know what's going on. Like I say, yeah, artillery don't like me. Whether it's the type of tanks I'm in, they're just sort of arty magnets anyway, like the Conqueror with its big soft engine deck, I don't know. It could be something to do with that. And that was an incredibly funny and lucky shot. I actually went for the front of the E50. It dipped, went straight under the E50 and hit the Tiger 2 that was buzzing past behind him. And I bet that Tiger 2 was just thinking, what the hell was that? Now, there's not been many tanks killed off yet, and we're 5 minutes in. I've been in matches where there's only been a couple of tanks left after 5 minutes. And in this one, well, we're on 4 and the enemy team are on 3, so it's not too bad. Although, looking at the amount of tanks that are missing, something's gone wrong here. We seem to be 5 tanks down, but the enemy team have only got 4, and the enemy team seem to be 6 tanks down, but we've only got 5, so it looks like there's been a suicide or something somewhere. Not entirely sure what's going on, but the scores just don't seem to add up. Either that, or it's just my eyes and my maths have gone out the window. I managed to get quite a decent shot on that Sparpanzer through the buildings. There's a lot of tanks you wouldn't take a shot like that in, because chances are it's going to go wide and miss, but in the Conqueror you can be quite confident that you're going to hit something like that. But now that we seem to have pushed them into one side on this in this castle, we can move up a bit and start putting the pressure on a bit more. Now I was going to go up into the courtyard, but there's a Motherland on the right flank, so I've got to be careful of him, and I've also got to be careful of my left popping around the corner. But those guys on our team that are around there, they've made short work of the enemy tanks that were there, so good on them. And now we can make a push through the castle up towards the enemy spawn location, and well, hopefully mop up the 3 tanks that are left. There's 2 tank destroyers, 1 tank destroyer, and a T-57 heavy. And now it's just a case of trying to get there and do a bit more damage and try and take out these guys. And I managed to get a hit into the T-57 heavy, and he gets tracked, but he burns his repair kit. And I go for a bit of a lucky shot, but I'd not reloaded in time, which was frustrating, and I go for sort of a very iffy shot through there, and it went on target. I just got my timing quite wrong, so that was down to me, that one, and I'm not quite going to reload in time to put another one into him. So I think I'm going to go and try and do something about this tank destroyer. Still going to keep an eye on that T-57 heavy though. See if I can put one into the back of him. But no, he's disappeared into cover. Oh, and it's a Death Star. And I didn't think that'd hit him, but it was worth a try. Now, when I know the Death Star's fired, as it has, by the indication of my teammate getting nuked, I know I've got a good few seconds to get over this ridge and plant one into him quite safely, just like that. Now there's just the T-57 heavy left, but I don't think I'm going to get there to do any more damage, to be honest. I think that's pretty much the game over for me. Tank destroyer moving in for the kill there. Although, having said that, I did manage to get the last shot in, so that's not too bad. Just bumped me up a couple of kills. Well, bumped me up another kill there. So quite a fun match. A little bit intense at the beginning when I got stuck out there. Don't get excited over the XP. I did have a ×3 on. Got a few left from the Boilermaker, and like I said, I'm trying to get out of this to the 215B now. I'm not going to get rid of it. I just want to get the 215B so I can review that entire line. But 4,500 damage done, which is I'm quite happy with that. Now I keep going on about the accuracy, but according to the stats the accuracy wasn't brilliant, so I think I'll just shut up now. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode. I hope it might have been useful for you for when you get on the Overlord map. I haven't been on it yet, and yeah, I just hope you've been entertained by it. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow in another video, possibly the Jagdtiger 88 review. Who knows, we'll see. But as always, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.